Hello, I'm Kristen Brzezinski, the executive editor of TV Reel, and I'm speaking with Chris Hansen, co-founder of the new factual streamer TruBlu. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
I am great, and I'm so excited to be talking about this new streaming service.
Well, thank
Can
you.
you tell me what led to the launch of TruBlu?
It's a partnership between Transition Studios, Shawn Rech, and myself, and we got to know each other 5 years ago, I suppose. Transition was doing, and Shawn was directing a documentary on Richard Worshey Jr., aka White Boy Rick, teenage drug dealer in Detroit, who became a big story. There was a movie, and it was a story for a lot of different reasons. He was in prison for far too long. He may have not been used properly by the FBI, and he was a white teenage drug dealer in Detroit. Now, in the 80s, I worked in Detroit for about 10 years as a reporter, and I broke the story and worked the story. So Shawn interviewed me for the documentary he was directing called White Boy, which is out now. And we kept in touch over the ensuing 5 years, and Shawn had done a streamer called American Gospel TV, which is probably the most successful streamer you've never heard of. It's a very niche audience, very loyal audience. So he had the template. And he said to me, he said, look, you're the exact partner I need. Let's do crime. Let's do investigative stuff. Let's do, your enterprise, hidden camera, predator shows, all of it. And I said, you know what? This is the perfect time in my career and in my life to do this. Let's go. And again, he had the template for streaming. So I just had to bring my brand and my knowledge of, putting this content together, and we launched it. And boy, it's really taken off. I just could not be more blessed or happier at the way things have gone.
Talk to me about the programming mix.
The program mix, if you think about Netflix for crime, so we have our own independent production, stream of content that we produce from the predator investigations, which we call Takedown. We also have multiple, and I mean multiple, investigative enterprise documentaries that I'm working on. We have films like White Boy, like Murder in the Park, that Shawn also did prior to White Boy, and many others that we have curated and put together. So we have quite a library of films, crime-related, and some feature-type things too. I mean, it is undoubtedly focused on crime and enterprise reporting, but we also have, for instance, a series where crews go into fire halls around the country and show recipes that the firefighters put together. And it's a very clever show and well done. So it's a lot of things, but the focus obviously is crime. We also have a news magazine in the works, and we've done a couple episodes called True Crime Nation, where we will explore multiple topics in one program. We have some of those out. We're working on others. And we also have the opportunity to take the dramatic video from Florida of the woman who was working out in her apartment gym who was attacked and fought off a sexual predator. And we can dig deep into that interview and talk to her and show that video. So usually once a week, I do an interview with anybody ranging from her to Ben Crump to, Elizabeth Smart, people from all walks of life having to do with crime and law and order. So it's just beginning. We have vast visions of expanding this. But I think we're off to a really good start, and it's resonated with people. And the predator investigations, especially, which we hadn't done for a little bit, are something that people have been demanding, and now there's a place for it.
Now, how is all this content curated on the platform itself?
So if you go to watchtrueblu.com, and TruBlu is TRUBLU, you will open a world of content, and you'll be able to see different films. You'll be able to see the Takedown. You'll be able to see, True Crime Nation. And it's very easy to find. It's very user friendly. So you'll be able to pick and choose and go through it. And I've heard from a number of people, both folks I know and people who just have come across watchtrueblu.com, that they go down a kind of a rabbit hole. They start watching one after the other, and so it's, which is good news. I mean, I think there's a lot to offer there, and it's certainly the bounty of entertainment and enterprise and hard work. And, these predator investigations we've been doing for 19 years now. And if you had asked me when I did the first To Catch a Predator investigation, if we'd still be doing them, I would have looked at you like, why would anybody show up after doing 2 or 3 of them? But the reality is, because of the explosion in the number of social media platforms, places where adults can approach children, this activity is more prevalent than ever before, and it's more difficult to detect. We just finished a sting last week in Ohio where 6 men surfaced in 2 days, and some chilling scenarios. I mean, mind-boggling scenarios, what these guys wanted to do, traveling all the way from the Chicago area to the Dayton, Ohio area. We worked with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office there. And even having been doing this work for so many years, it blew my mind. And so all this is content that we have that people can find nowhere else. So all those continue to roll out. Our goal is to raise awareness and create a dialogue that continues to help protect kids online and to help people protect themselves from all kinds of predators. My theory on all of this is that if we can get into the mind of a predator or a criminal, insert ourselves in an enterprising way in a story, in a crime, like the Predator series, like the Takedown series, where we're essentially covering the commission of a felony, and then hear the voice of a victim, we can better protect people from becoming victims. And I think that's part of the goal here. Is it entertaining? Is it compelling? Of course, that's why people watch it. But the ultimate goal, I think, is to, create content that raises awareness and creates a dialogue.
And a streaming platform launching with this amount of original content isn't really the usual. I'd love to hear, what's the strategy for originals for the platform?
Well, for originals, it's to produce as much as we can, as quickly as we can. And it's a great time of life for me to do this. And it's a great opportunity for me to be unburdened by the A meeting, the B meeting, the green light meeting, the having to call so-and-so for a crew. I call Shawn Rech or one of the guys at the office or one of the women at the office and say, look, I need a crew Thursday to interview somebody from the NYPD on the Tracy Hutsana case, this master con woman who took advantage and robbed money from people, including Jemana Kidd, the television personality and former wife of Jason Kidd, the basketball star. And so we can dig into these dramatic serial documentaries in a way that no one else can. And because we're so nimble and because we can react so quickly, nobody else can compete really. And we're blessed. Look, we have a very loyal following. I've got a very loyal following, whether it's the podcast or TruBlu or the Takedown series, and we work really hard to fulfill people's requests and needs and what they want in terms of content. And we have a lot of things that people will be surprised by, I think. Some of these documentaries, it's a way for us to, again, do this kind of enterprise reporting, put it together in a very compelling fashion, and give it directly to our viewers. We control the delivery of the content. So it's quicker, it's better, it's faster, it's higher quality. We just eliminate the bureaucracy of it all. And for me, again, at my stage of the game, it's very, very rewarding.
Absolutely. And are you complementing this original programming with strategic third-party acquisitions?
Well, I think that's going to be something we're going to take a look at. We're in discussions with some other streamers, and that may be a part of the plan to expand our footprint. Our brand is really strong the way it is. My brand, Shawn Rech's brand, and I think TruBlu is starting to get its own brand following as well. Now, do we end up acquiring another law enforcement / crime type streamer who may be not on the roll we are to grab those people and to give them the content that they've been getting, plus all we have to offer? That's potentially going to happen. We're not there yet. Discussions are taking place, but I think given the growth that we have seen, I think we're going to get to a level where we're going to be very strong, very healthy, and have the assets and the resources to continue this kind of production. So I'm very optimistic based upon what we've been able to achieve. We're way ahead of our wildest expectations. And the other thing we have going for us is, I don't want to pretend to be some sort of digital guru, because I'm not, but I have benefited from having done the early predator investigations, at a network. I couldn't do this without having been at a network for 20 years and having had a syndicated show and being involved with Discovery. I mean, none of this happens without all of those years of experience there and the platform that created. But, I was on Twitter in 2007, not because I was a genius or visionary, it's because the kids at NBC put me on Twitter. I got on Instagram. My wife put me on TikTok. We have a tease now for one of the takedown episodes on TruBlu that has 3.5 million views. So we have this synergy, if you will, that these different social media platforms feed off of each other. And then I've got the podcast, which reaches, potentially 300,000 people a month. And so it all works together. And it's very rewarding, and it's very interactive. My wife and I were at Starbucks over the weekend and ran into a fellow who was nice enough to come up and say hello and tell me about listening to the podcast. And he liked TruBlu, and he said, you should do an episode on this guy, Aladdin. And so when I get finished with you, I'm going to do the next episode on Aladdin. I think if somebody's going to interact with you and take the time out of their day to express their appreciation for your work, you should recognize that. And I think when you do that and you have that attitude, I think people respect it. And I think it creates brand loyalty. And I think there's a very devoted following for all this work. And I'm excited about it.
Absolutely agree. And that's something that the streaming world can allow for that quick turnaround.
Sure.
That maybe sometimes that network television red tape doesn't allow for that quickness.
Well, there's so much that goes into network television. And again, look, there are great shows on network television. There are great shows on cable, and there are other streamers providing wonderful content, but they can't do what we do, and that's the bottom line. And when I realized that, a year or so ago, it was like this epiphany. It's like, this is exactly what I need to be doing. And this is how I need to do it. One of my kids is a reporter for one of the TV stations in Orlando, and we speak frequently. And I've got one kid behind the camera, one kid in front of the camera. And he says, I find it somewhat ironic that my 63-year-old father is on the cutting edge of new media, and I'm still slugging on the field. I said, well, that's where exactly you should be, by the way, at this stage of your career. And a lot of opportunity going forward. But it is. And again, I'm not pretending to be a visionary. I just fell into the exact right thing at the exact right time, I think.
Looking at future growth prospects, how are you looking to extend the platform with partners in the US? And then also, will international rollouts be on the planner?
Well, that's an excellent question. Obviously, internationally, people can subscribe to the original content. The content that we license becomes somewhat more complicated. So we have a lot of fans in the UK. We have a lot of fans, in Sweden and all over the world, and Latin America, Canada. So we're going to figure out a way to internationally license some of this material. But I think our major growth is going to be in independent original content. And I think that's what people want. And if we can continue, and we will continue to create that stream, and based upon what's in the pipeline, every day is a new opportunity. There are stories, if you could see the other side of this dining room table in New York City, I hope my wife doesn't see it, because she'll yell at me and I'll make me clean it all up. But there's nothing but future ideas here. And Shawn Rech is a great partner, and we've got some great producers working with us. And I've been able to pick and choose from some folks with whom I've worked for many years. And Kelly McClure, who's a senior producer of ours and runs a lot of our editing, and and she worked with me at Crime Watch Daily, and she's big in CrimeCon. So all these things come together at the right time to push this through. So acquisition, partnerships, I think that's all in the works. Right now, we're trying to get our subscriber level to continue to grow in a healthy fashion, which it has. And based on everything I see that's in the pipeline, I see no reason why that wouldn't continue. It's the price point is, I think, where it should be. And again, the business mind behind it is Shawn Rech, because he's done it before. But I'm learning about it as we go along, and I see nothing but, success in the future.
This has been fantastic, Chris. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to covering all the continued success and future developments.
I'm working hard.